nutritional habits of the elite, sleep routines of the elite, alcohol intake, activity levels. Can I talk? Can I talk now?
Speak.
The mindset.
Stop. Okay, speak.
Mindset and discipline of the elite. Common mistakes to avoid. Building your own elite habits to close. How would you build them?
I'm Ryan Stevens.
Dr. Taylor Waters.
I'm Ben Oliver.
Welcome to the Superhuman Show, yeah?
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Superhuman Show with your hosts, Ben Oliver, Doc Taylor Waters, and Mr. Shaky Stevens.
All right, Ben Warren, go easy.
With that leg just twitching.
Get on my steps in.
As a man who's powered by caffeine.
Yeah, that's why his step count's so high. Because he
Get on
just
my
does them
steps
as he sat down. So, topic today, habits of those who are in elite shape. So, first we'll define what we class as that for the sake of conversation when it comes to kind of superhuman. Because elite shape could be an Olympic athlete at their sport. It
performance-based.
Performance-based. It could be, bodybuilding. That's a different criteria. So we're talking about kind of general public, kind of what we would class as someone who is in, the top 1% when it comes to being in shape. And we would probably define that as having body fat for a male between 8 to 10% body fat.
Visible abdominals.
Visible abs.
Definitely not talking about it from a first-hand experience.
Yeah.
Especially living here.
Yeah. I think for women, that's probably going to be 15 to 20% body fat. Probably carrying a decent level of muscle mass. Yeah. There's probably going to be some kind of performance criteria when it comes to the gym, but it's not going to be kind of specific to a certain exercise, because you could be in elite shape, but maybe you don't bench press anymore because you've got shoulder injuries. Maybe you don't squat because that's why I don't like, to be in elite shape, you have to squat 2.5 times your body weight, when it's like you could have really, really strong legs, but you've injured your back playing sports or something and you just can't do that movement. But I would probably say
a good foundation of all-round fitness.
Yeah, if we had to throw movements in, you should probably be benching 1.5 times your body weight for a couple of reps. You can probably do 10 to 15 strict pull-ups.
We're not gonna throw exercise out there, but we are gonna throw exercise out.
Well, no, I'm saying because people are going to go, what could I compare myself to?
I think we're going to go more so on like a look in the mirror anyway.
It's going to be a look, but also if someone's in cracking shape but they can't do a fucking push-up, then it's
how rare is that?
Yeah, no, they two tend to go hand in hand, but it's good to have a bit of go with the show.
Yeah.
I think body weight movement wise, you should be able to do. You should be strong enough to do 10 to 15 pull-ups, whether you do them in your training program or not. Same with bench. Maybe you do incline dumbbells or whatever instead, but your strength-wise, you're probably pressing 1 to 1.5 times your body weight. You can probably, again, every leg press machine is going to be different, so you can't really give a specific amount. But if you were to squat, it's probably going to be around 1.5 times your body weight to 2 times. And yeah, deadlift, probably double body weight or something like that. Yeah. I know for a while John would talk about I think it was the 300, 400, 500 pound club, where it's you can bench 300 pounds, squat 400 pounds, and deadlift 600 pounds, 500 pounds, sorry. I think I hit the 4, 5, 6. It was like a 400 pound bench, a 500 pound squat, and a 600 pound deadlift. But I did not look elite when I did that. I looked like a pub landlord when I did that. So there is going to be some metrics, they have to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's very easy to see. When you see someone who's in elite physical shape, it's almost quite clear.
Yeah.
It's
They're almost like beach ready, if that's
They're in striking distance of just getting the double look when they walk by.
Yeah. And you can whip your top off any time of year
and be
at
confident,
any moment and be like, I'm in shape.
Yeah. You turn heads when you walk around the pool on holiday.
Yeah.
Normally from the smell.
Just dropping farts as you walk past. Who's that?
But okay, so let's talk into what are some of the common habits, traits, behaviors that we see in the guys in the program that achieve that level, because there are some common themes.
I think it's important when you're looking at being in elite shape. One of the things we said there was sustainable. So you're ready year round, and you don't stay in shape year round through going 75 hard. Do extreme measures. So if someone is in shape year round, it's likely they've got a very strong foundation of habits that they just rinse and repeat day after day, no matter how busy they are with work, no matter what time of year it is, no matter if they got a vacation coming up. Like their general foundations are clearly very strong, hence why they're in shape so consistently. Because some people can get in elite shape, but they're not in elite shape year round, like all the vast majority of the year, So I think that's where the key importance of habits comes into play, because it's those repeated behaviors that you clearly do consistently over time.
They have a system that's sustainable, don't they?
Yes.
Like people can get in shape in like 8 weeks, but they eat like chicken and broccoli, fish and rice cakes.
Yes.
And then when they've had enough, it's like they go back to their baseline habits and behaviors, which is like 10 pints and a pack of cigarettes.
And, people who are in like elite shape, they're not perfect all the time. Like they go out for meals, they will have a bit of a blowout every now and again. They might overindulge on vacation stuff. They do that stuff, but they've mastered the skill in a way that they can stay in good shape year round whilst also doing those things.
I'll give you a good example. When you said percentages there, it's like people who are in elite shape and then they don't sustain it. It's almost like they go from 100% to like 10%, whereas the people who have a system where they stay in shape year round is like they're 70% for the whole year.
Yeah, so being a 70%er.
Yeah.
Right? So you're pretty close to the mark all the time.
Yeah.
Touching distance of shredded.
Yeah.
If I know if I gotta get shredded in 6 weeks,
You can pull the trigger and get it done.
I'd say we've been 10% this trip.
yeah,
Too many caramel turtles.
Yeah. Oh, after this trip, give me 8 weeks.
We've had a 10% weight gain in this trip. So right, let's go into the key habits and behaviors, because we talk about this with clients where if you look at kind of the shape that you want to achieve, you would look at kind of, okay, well, what does that person do? How do they live their life? What's their kind of daily structure like? Is there anything that I can mimic or kind of integrate into my lifestyle? And you're likely going to achieve that outcome as a byproduct of being that person. And so we're looking to kind of adopt the behaviors of these guys, or again, like we're going to take what's applicable to our situation, because you may have to travel and the guy that you look up to that's in great shape doesn't travel. Maybe you've got kids and they don't have kids. There's going to be certain limitations to what you can carry over, but you can also look at the fundamental principles of those things as well. So
Should we go from a nutritional standpoint?
Yeah.
Let's go.
So
let's go nutrition.
The first one that stands out to me nutritionally is they are creatures of habit when it comes to their food, and that they eat very, very similar meals on a daily basis. So that doesn't mean they never deviate, like you said. They still go out for dinners and things, but their breakfast is probably going to be very, very similar every day at a similar time. Their lunch is going to be very, very similar. Their dinner's probably going to be very similar the majority of the time. And they don't spend a lot of time thinking about being creative with their meals. They kind of have found foods that they like enough to eat consistently. Doesn't mean they love every single meal, but they can tolerate that meal. They don't mind it. It tastes pretty good. And they're very kind of structured with their meal plan. Because we talk about having a flexible kind of eating with a flexible lifestyle, so you can incorporate the foods that you enjoy and have variety and stuff. But that doesn't change the fact that the guys in the top shape, they don't have that much flexibility with their day to day.
That's so crucial. I have so many conversations with clients about that, where it's like, you don't have to love every meal that you have. Not every meal has to be like a mouth orgasm. You just have to like it.
Yeah.
As long as you don't dislike it, it's okay.
Yeah. Like one of my staple meals is like yogurt and fruit. Like I don't love it. Like I don't eat it like, oh God, this is lush. But I like it. Like it is nice.
Yeah.
And I know it's relevant of the goals. It's relevant to the goals that I have. So it's just one of those ones that I can bring in. It's convenient. I moderately like the taste. Like if I was going to go to a restaurant, I wouldn't order. I'm looking for like the indulgent side of it. I wouldn't order yogurt and fruit. But it's like it's just one of those meals that it's easy repeated over time. I think so. Like I see this especially in older guys, so like guys in their 40s, 50s, who've got a family and then they work. They literally, and they're in shape almost every time. They rinse and repeat really similar foods. Like they rotate through the same foods pretty consistently over time, and then they deviate at times when they feel like they want to, but the vast majority of the meals stay the same, because it's just limiting that decision fatigue. Like they're not constantly trying to recreate these new meals that are overly indulgent and, as you said, like a mouth orgasm. It just, it complicates a process that doesn't need to be complicated.
Yeah. And I would say these people, they have a plan, even though they eat the same things every day, they have a plan ahead of time. They're not making decisions about their meals on the fly. It's like, oh, what am I having next? They know what they're having next, even if it's the same meal. Because often what you find is with clients who make decisions on the fly, they end up in the drive-through in In-N-Out Burger, ordering double doubles, you know?
The funny thing with when you look at kind of the actual meals that these guys eat, though, I would say the only common thing is they consistently eat enough protein and they hit their calories. Because for me to say, like, you know, all of the guys that I've trained that are in elite shape eat their 5 a day fruit and veg is complete bollocks. Like they don't. Like one of my guys who is arguably in the best shape out of my clients, the majority of his food comes from protein bars, protein shakes, like protein peanut butters, like and we spoke about it where I said, you know, you could eat some fruit, some vegetables, we could increase your food volume, then you're not going to be as hungry. And he's like, I like these foods. And he's like, I've tried that in the past. I end up hating my meals and I end up splurging. And he's like, well, I found this sweet spot now where I kind of scratch the itch of getting to eat these protein bars. They're good enough. They're not a candy bar, but they're enjoyable enough. And I like all of my meals. And I'm like, cool. So we won't change it. Like blood work's good. You feel healthy. Digestion's good. Like why would we mess with it?
Look at what problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah, and so when people say like, "Oh, the elite guys, you know, they're supplementing with these vitamins or they're eating these key foods," like they're fucking not. Like they're just really consistent with the fundamentals, however that looks for their lifestyle. But then the one thing I will say is like they hit their protein target very consistently, and their calories are on the money.
Yeah. Their protein's often higher than what it needs to be as well,
Yeah.
which allows them to be like, it's more satiating as well. So if anything, they stick to like a calorie deficit or their plan by default.
Yeah.
You know?
I think and this is where social media can come in and skew the perception of it, is because you'll have someone online who is in shape creating these like flagrant Cajun chicken pastas that are only X amount of calories, and then they're making these big protein pancake stacks with a sugar-free drizzle, and like, I'll be honest, like, I've been in this industry forever, well, however long I've been alive for, and I've never seen someone like shredded and that's the way they eat.
Yeah.
It's just not that practical. It's so for those people, like, they're a content creator. It's usually like their job is social media. So they go home, like they're working, when they're putting together those like really attractive looking meals, that's their job. That's why they're good at it. But when you're like a lawyer with a family of 3 who works 10-hour days, who trains an hour 4 days a week, you're not whipping up your creamy Cajun pasta with coriander drizzle. It's like that's not the way this is working. It's like they have convenient meals that are high in protein that they repeat more often than not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like again, looking at the meals, exactly like you said, they have at most 4 ingredients, normally 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Like it'll be like chicken, rice, veg, or like a meat or a protein source, a fruit or vegetable, and a starch source.
Yeah.
And they've just found ones that are convenient for them. And like even, you know, like we were just talking about, like in Starbucks, you know, it's like they'll always go for so this kind of goes on to the next habit nutritionally. They will always make the best choices when they go out to eat, and they're going to try and stay as close to their plan as possible as their default. So if they really can't, if they're caught out, you know, without a meal or something, they're going to try and find something on the menu that they can kind of makeshift to hit their numbers. Maybe they order 2, you know, bacon egg white muffins, and they throw away 1 muffin and they put the egg white and the bacon in one. And it's like, well, I just doubled my protein and kept the carbs low. Like they'll make those kind of adjustments and go the extra mile to try and stay as close to their plan as possible versus, oh, fuck it, I didn't have a meal, get me a croissant, you know? And it's like, and they'll immediately go to like, well, I can't be perfect, so fuck it. So like that kind of like perfectionist mentality, I don't think really exists in these like elite guys.
They're not perfectionists.
But they're great at adapting.
Yeah.
They're very, very adaptable.
They most certainly don't have like the all or nothing mindset. It's like if they can't be perfect, then they'll just do nothing at all. It's like, what is the best decision I can make given the circumstances I'm presented with?
Yeah.
You know?
So is there any other nutrition ones that you see that these guys do?
When they go out to eat, they're not always choosing a meal based on the enjoyment of the meal itself. It's like they can go out for a meal and have a chicken salad. They can go out for a meal and have some salmon and vegetables. They can just have like a nice steak with like half a portion of like spuds. They don't need to. It's not like, oh well, the thing is, the spaghetti bolognese and garlic bread's really nice. It's like, yeah, I know it's really nice. Like, you don't have to tell me. I'm not sat here saying it's not nice.
Yeah.
But it's like you don't always have to like have this such an indulgent experience every time you go out for a meal. You can just go out for a meal, socialize with the people you're with, and have a meal that is more reflective of the goals that you have.
They don't treat every meal like a celebration type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the reward of going out for a meal is like, oh, someone's actually cooking my food, whether that's a salad or like a burger. Someone's washing up the dishes. Like that's the reward of like going out.
Yeah.
I mean, that celebration is important as well. They don't celebrate everything by consuming.
Yeah.
It's like you see some people, it's like, it's their birthday, so they eat and potentially drink. It's their friend's birthday, so they eat and potentially drink. They've had a hard day's work, so they eat and potentially drink. It's
a funeral.
It's a funeral. We're going to eat and drink. Like, it's my nan's cat's bar mitzvah, and I'm gonna have a burger to celebrate. It's a retirement. It's like you're just any opportunity to shove food in your face. That's what you're going for. Whereas like actually, there's lots of other things that you can do. Like, oh, but I'm spending time with my kids, so we've gone to McDonald's and had a triple cheeseburger and a McFluzz, and it's like you could have gone for a hike if you wanted to. You could have gone for a bike ride. You could have gone to an arcade and played some games. Like there's loads of things you can do that don't revolve around eating.
Yeah.
Someone said, what do you do on the weekend, like outside of eat and drink? And it's like, well, there's loads of things you can do.
Yeah.
Like, you can go have a spa day. You can go, you can read a book. You can go for a hike. You can go camping. You can play a sport. There's so many things you can do.
Yeah.
It's just in your head, anything that you do from a social standpoint or celebratory standpoint is just geared around consumption.
That's what I would say. Like the elite, they have like responses to stress or like how they have rewards doesn't involve, or for most of the time, around consumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they've changed it because maybe they did in the past, but they don't use it anymore.
Yeah.
And people can always think in extremes. They're like, what? So on your birthday, you're not going to have a slice of cake? Man, I'm going to have a whole cake. Don't threaten me with
That's
that.
once a year.
One day, yeah.
But it's not like, I'm not going to have that for everyone's birthday.
Yeah, that's the difference. Is just because everyone else is celebrating doesn't mean that you have to partake in every single thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like one of the, kind of moving on from the nutrition, one of the habits that I see of these guys is they're not easily influenced or pressured by other people. They are very focused on what they want to achieve, and they tend to be pretty successful in what it is they do professionally as well. Same thing with in terms of like relationships and things like that. They're quite driven, and they're able to keep their eyes on the prize, and they're not easily swayed by like shiny object syndrome, like on the Matrix, like the woman in the red dress kind of thing. Like they're not distracted. Whereas I think guys that are trying to pursue that elite shape, maybe they're newer to kind of the program or newer to kind of adjusting their eating habits and things, like it's like they've got ADD, and whether it's like they are looking at different diets, different training programs, whatever it is, but like they can't keep their eyes on the thing, or it's other people sabotaging them, or they let them sabotage them. It's letting their kids influence their decisions, their spouse influence their decisions, their parents, their friends. And the guys that I see that just stay in great shape, they either, move away from the people that are hindering them because they're like, well, this goal is more important, and they're not supportive of it. And they find the environment that caters towards that. Or if that's not an option because, they married and they got kids and stuff, they can
Shut the noise
set
out.
up a boundary and shut the noise out. Yeah.
They don't get distracted easily. It's like they have phenomenal impulse control.
Yeah.
They just keep doing the same actions even if they don't see like an instant return.
Yeah.
Like phenomenal impulse control.
What about sleep patterns? Do you see any consistency from sleep perspective?
See, I know some guys where like they sleep fuck all and they're in great shape.
Yeah.
And from a health standpoint, is that going to bite them in the ass long term? Maybe.
But maybe it doesn't hold as much weight in. Like you won't see it as evidently. But
Yeah.
if you think of the impact that sleep can have on like hunger management and energy reg,
Yeah. It can, but like, I mean, my example is always like, you look at like a physique competitor, none of them are sleeping well during the end of their preps.
But they're not sustaining that year round either.
No, it's true. But I think you're like, when people say like, oh, sleep's so important, like if you're not going to drop body fat if you don't sleep properly and stuff. It's like, well, you like, poor sleep doesn't change thermodynamics. Like it's still calories in, calories out. So I totally, in certain situations, I put a lot of stock in sleep, and in other situations, I'm like, if someone's like, I need my 8 hours, and I'm like, yeah, but if you get up an hour early, you can actually get your workout in, and like I would trade off that hour. If you're sleeping 6 hours a night, then I'm probably not going to shave off another hour. But I think people put too much effort or emphasis on sleep duration. Like, I'm all for sleep quality, but like people sleep for 9 hours and they sleep like shit. Like it doesn't mean anything. But I think like to say like, like you can't drop body fat or make progress because your sleep's not great. I'm like, well, fuck me. Like I've had years where my sleep's been terrible and I've made great progress.
Yeah.
So
I would say like with sleep, it can, if you are sleep deprived, it can making decisions which are like conducive to your progress a little bit harder. Like sometimes people's hunger is higher, but I've had clients where they're like, I'm traveling to 3 different states this week through different time zones. So me saying to them, get 8 hours sleep, is like, it's just not feasible.
if it had that much of an impact, you'd be a fat bastard right now because you've been sleep deprived for years from your kids.
That's what I mean.
But like, even though that may affect your hunger and energy levels and stuff, you can still regulate those things consciously.
That's the thing. Although it makes your impulse control worse, as long as your impulse control can override it, well, now I can still get away with it. So it's not one that's going to heavily dictate someone's ability. Although it plays a role, it's not heavy enough to override them people who've got like great impulse control.
Yeah, so with that as well, like with some clients, I'll go like, well, when you get on your jet, don't have foods there that are going to likely tempt you. Like, don't have a croissant when you get on the plane. Like, you're staring you in the face because you're sleep deprived. You're likely going to eat it.
Yeah.
Have like fruit there, or like take your food with you, so to speak. So like you can modify your environment type thing to make those making decisions much easier.
And then with training,
Before we go on to training, what about, is there the one that would fall into the nutrition is fluids. I find people who just drink consistent water, they generally manage it a little bit better.
I disagree.
I spend most of my time in the toilet peeing out.
But when you've been your leanest, I bet your fluid intake is always more than when you're at your fattest.
Marginally, but that's probably just from maybe a slight hunger standpoint.
That's what I mean. It's for people who always drink more water, they more often than not going to manage their hunger level so much better, so their overconsumption is way less.
Yeah.
Just look at Ryan, for example. Like you're lean year round, your fluid intake's through the roof.
Yeah.
Maybe indirectly, but like I wouldn't. Again, I've got lots of clients where like their hydration levels aren't optimal, but they're in great shape. So I wouldn't like.
You wouldn't put it in the top. Put it in that same category as sleep.
Yeah.
So it's like, it will play a role, but it's not one of the ones that is heavily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think like same with sleep, on the extreme end, it will absolutely have an impact.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
if someone's drinking 2 liters of water a day, and I'm like, you need to drink 5. Like they're all right.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
if they're drinking like no water and just coffee, then it's like, yeah, that's probably going to have a negative impact.
It's more just not drinking enough is more important than someone who's just very good at drinking water.
Yeah. So training, I mean, really the 2 things that stick out for me the most is they train relatively hard and they train consistently. Like they're all on different training programs, different training styles. Some are, more strength focused. Some are more machine hypertrophy, functional focused, but they do it consistently and they do it well.
Yeah.
Like that's really like the 2 most common things.
I'd say they'd have some sort of structured program. So like they're going to train like 3 times a week.
There's
type thing.
There's a consistent cadence to it.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
But even then, because we've got some guys that travel everywhere. They're in a different gym. Maybe they're training at a different time of day, but they still get it in.
Yeah.
Like they prioritize their training as like this will get done every single week at the minimum of minimal effective dose, like 2 to 3 times a week.
It's like they'll do something at the cadence they have set. So like I've had some guys like, I can't get to the gym today, but I'll do like a bodyweight workout in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I was going to say is their training is quite high up the priority list.
Yeah.
So it's like no matter what's going on, they're always looking for a way to squeeze it in and get it done, rather than like with some people, it's like, oh, well, as soon as it's like, oh, well, I can't train in the morning. Oh, well, I'll train it.
Yeah.
It's like they sort of write it off straight. So they'll always try and figure out the best way to get their training done.
From another training standpoint, actually, is it class under training? I was thinking about activity outside of the
Well,
gym.
I was just thinking steps.
Steps.
Steps would probably be one.
Yeah. So would you class that as training? Like just general everyday activity is a lot
I think
higher.
they prioritize their NEAT.
Yeah,
To stay consistent.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a set like, oh, everyone in elite shape is doing 10,000 plus steps.
No.
But I think they are aware of their NEAT and they hit their NEAT target regardless of what it is
Yeah.
that's been set for them.
Even if it's like, oh, they cycle 15 minutes before they train every time they train.
Yeah.
Or every Saturday or every Sunday they go for a walk around the local park. Or they have a dog and they walk it every day for 20 minutes. It's like they've obviously factored their overall activity into their lifestyle. And it's something that is like, it's at the forefront of their priority is they prioritize daily movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're aware. They have an awareness of it, and is it like however they track it, it's consistent week to week. Whether that's like a certain amount of steps per day, or it's they do 3 hikes every week with their family.
And then I think from, did you have more training thoughts?
Not from a training standpoint, no.
I mean, the next ones that I think of are like just general kind of like mindset traits where, the two others that stick out to me are their ability to do shit that they don't enjoy or don't want to do, but they see the outcome as something that's desirable, and so they do it anyway.
Yep.
And the ability to delay gratification.
Yeah, that's
like
what I
I think they are and I guess like a third, and we've spoke about this on another episode, is they don't act out of emotion. They're normally quite data driven, so they can make informed decisions. They can do something for a long period of time with little to no reward, knowing that it is coming, and within that they can do shit that they don't enjoy, but they know it's for a greater cause or kind of greater outcome, and they will do it anyway.
Yeah. They have a great ability of like delaying gratification. Like that, I say that is like a superpower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the ones, this falls into the nutrition, and it's not a habit that they have, but it's a habit that a lot of people have that they don't, is booze. Like their alcohol intake. I rarely see someone who's consistently in shape year round, yet they drink like 3 days a week.
Yeah.
I just never see it. And that's what I tell my clients. They're like, can you drink and be in shape? I'm like, you can. Like it is physiologically, it is possible. But from experience of working with, hundreds and hundreds of people, I have never seen someone drink 3 days a week consistently and like, oh, you're walking around chiseled.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. I've seen guys do it 1 day a week consistently, even 2.
You're pushing it.
Yeah, I don't see it that common. I don't see someone drinking twice a week most weeks and are walking around lean year round. I just don't really see it.
It's like devils in the dosage, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like someone's having like 1 drink a week or whatever. It's like, ugh. But if someone's having like 8 or 9, then it's like, God, your decision making is going to be impaired as well. You're going to get hungry, a little bit snacky.
And then that's when you can talk about sleep's probably going to get impacted. Training intensity is going to go down. It's like when you zoom in acutely, really not a big impact. But if it's for several years, you think of how many workouts have been compromised because your sleep wasn't great, that you were probably a bit dehydrated the next day, your energy levels weren't great.
How many poor food choices?
That's where like it's like, you zoom out over 10 years and it's this or this.
Yeah.
And like that's a huge difference. And there's a bodybuilding coach that spoke about this where, when people talk to us about nutrient timing and protein intake and macros and things and all of this stuff, he was like, all of these things, for Gen Pop, they really don't matter. But if you're a bodybuilder and each of these things give you an extra 1%, maybe over a year, that's 10% difference. But over 10 years, that's 100% difference.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's when you look at like the guys that get crazy results, they are doing the 1% for 10 years. But for 12 weeks, fuck all difference. And so like, we're always going to look at what are the big rocks that we need to focus on with a client. But if they're really looking at going crazy elite shape, like they are going to be looking at the kind of 1% things and doing them consistently for a long period of time.
Yeah. Well, like alcohol doesn't really serve us at all if we look at it, So like you said before, it's like, how close can we get to 0?
Yeah. I think getting in like good shape is hard enough as it is. Like I always like refer to it as like climbing up a steep hill. Like there's this consistent effort that you've got to be putting in, and like it can get a bit easier, but it's always a bit of work going. And then throwing booze in the mix is like dragging a piano behind you.
Yeah.
It's like now I've just got this added weight that is making this process so much harder. So again, the more you can keep that out of the equation, the easier the process is going to be. And if you do that, because again, it's not like, oh, but I only have one night a week, but it's one night a week every week.
Yeah.
So then you're having 52 over the course of a year, which is disrupting time and time and time and time again. And like when people come off their plan, there's usually a trigger. Like something's triggered it, and then they've come off. And quite often it's booze. Like they've gone out, they've had a night out, they wake up, they're hungover, they miss the session, they're lying in bed, they order the takeaway, and it's there we go. Then it's the same thing, just triggering that negative response and taking that momentum away from you. And
Yeah.
It's like the domino effect, isn't it? Like alcohol is like the catalyst, and it's like everything else like just goes to shit.
Yeah, and I think like you mentioned, Taylor, like these guys will still go out to eat and have the occasional drinking things, but their ability to get back on track and the speed at which they can get back on track is rapid.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily that they deviate from their plan any more than or any less than anyone else, but the magnitude by which they deviate is much less, and the speed at which they get on back on plan is much faster.
Yeah.
And so they could still go off their plan 5 times a week, but they're going off their plan by a rice cake each time, and then they're right back on it. Whereas you've got someone else that goes off their plan once a week, but they go off by 10,000 cows. And so like that's what the magnitude definitely. And then it takes them 3 days of beating themselves up to even get back on their on their
that's
plan.
that swift response and return to it. Like I go off plan, quite heavily at times, but then my response to that is very quick. Like the next morning, I'm like, right, here we go again, straight back to it. Whereas like I know some people, they go off plan, and then like 2 months later, they're like, you know what, I had that rough night, and now we've waited 2 months of the year, because you just couldn't find that ability to get yourself back in the saddle. So it's that quick response to when you come off plan, just getting straight back to it.
Yeah, like a really common example is someone will go off plan on a Friday and be like, oh, I'll get back on plan Monday. So it's like, whereas like the elite will be like, oh, I went off plan, like you said, Ben, very small. Like they went off plan by 500 calories rather than 5,000, and then next meal they're back on plan.
Yeah.
Whereas like someone who's not elite, they'll go off by 5,000 and be like, oh, I'll have 5,000 on Saturday, Sunday, and then I'll get back on plan Monday.
Win that next meal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just win the next one. Win the next one. You don't have to wait 24 hours, 48 hours a week. Just win the next one.
Like we say, when's the best time to get back on plan? The next meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think but what's funny is we haven't mentioned supplements, any kind of like fasting or detoxing stupid shit.
Yep.
We haven't mentioned any kind of like biohacking morning routine, cold plunge, sauna stuff. We haven't mentioned, hormone therapies or anything like that, or peptides. This is all just like the guys that get in the best shape, they've mastered the fundamentals consistently.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is people are looking at these things that are going to get them. It's like biohack your way to elite. And nothing beats just mastering the basics and doing them consistently.
Yeah.
But again, it's much easier to sit in an infrared sauna every morning thinking that that's going to be the ticket than saying, no, I need to watch my food intake for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And so, again, people are looking at, you can't shortcut your way to that elite shape because it takes time to build the habits, skills, and behaviors to make it last. You can't hack your way into the skill set acquirement. Like
I think whenever you see someone who's in elite shape, what they've done is they've established a set of systems or habits that they almost don't even think about very much anymore. And now as a byproduct of just living their day to day, they just get in better shape over time. And it's just accumulation over time then. It's like they solve the problems, they build those systems out, and then they're like, right, now I'm just going to hold these for months and years, and that's how they've got to where they're at. It's not like they've found that one thing, or that's definitely going to do it, or getting this new bit of technology is going to solve it. It's just they've established these systems. They've then been consistent enough as to where they've almost become second nature, and then they just live their life. And as a byproduct, they're just getting in better shape over time.
Yeah, I've got another one. That just triggered me when you was speaking then. So the elite, right? They're either winning or learning. So when something doesn't go their way, so like you said, someone goes off plan. Often, a lot of clients will be like, "Oh, I'm going to do like a 3-day fast to like remove the toxins or whatever it may be," and they'll use that as a way to avoid facing the reason why they went off plan. Whereas the elite will go, "Okay, why did that happen? And what can I do differently next time to be 1% better?" Whereas like the people who aren't elite shape, they'll almost use it as a way to avoid facing the actual problem.
Yeah.
So that's another habit I would say for the elite.
I know that there'll be someone listening to this and they'll still go, yeah, but I think it's just peptides. And they'll be like, no, I'm just going to try this protocol. But it is, I mean, they are the common things that we see with all these guys that are in elite shape. And there's no, so like if there's anything you take away from this episode, I'd say like, don't search for those shortcuts. Like look at the traits, habits, and behaviors that these guys do, what they have been doing for a long period of time. That's going to put you in a much better position to, eventually attain that if that is your goal, rather than looking for these shortcut kind of ways that you think are going to solve it, but they're really not going to put you in a good position long term. Thank you as always for tuning in, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, and we'll see you next time.
If you love this show, please like, share, and leave us a 5-star review so that we can help more people. I'm John Madsen, Superhuman CEO, reminding you to always go get what's yours.